a lot of people remember when Matthew Perry, who's a big Hollywood star, died unexpectedly last October. And now, apparently, law enforcement at some levels are now looking at other people, potentially charging them in Matthew Perry's death, which might have involved, I guess, a drug called ketamine. I have no idea what ketamine is. So maybe you could explain to us what that drug is. Is that a prescription type drug, or is that's not a street drug, is it?
It's a prescription drug, and what it does is it treats anxiety, it treats depression. On the larger end, I believe it's a hallucinogenic drug. So it's pretty hardcore stuff. And what happened in Matthew Perry's case is that he was taking that. He was clinically being provided that by a therapist, but the medical examiner determined that that wasn't the ketamine that killed him. So they think that it sounds like they think he was buying this from some other source, potentially getting it through the mail, maybe overseas, maybe a local dealer. I think that's what they're sort of sniffing down here.
So he's essentially over. He's basically taking a legitimate drug prescription, which might help calm his anxieties, but he is supplementing his own supply potentially. And the story that I read, and I'm not an expert in this, that he may have actually fallen asleep and drowned in a bathtub. Is that what people? I mean, is that public knowledge or public conversation?
I think that's sort of what happened. And look, I mean, a lot of drugs fit into this category where they're perfectly legal to take. But think of alcohol poisoning, right? I mean, you can buy it without a prescription, but you can drink it to a point where things like this happen. And I think the overarching issue here is mental health. And when we talk about people who have this type of and degree of anxiety and depression, a lot of them treat themselves. A lot of them diagnose themselves, and a lot of them do what you might call self-medicating, which can be extremely dangerous. Obviously, because the ketamine, I think, is okay at these clinical levels under the supervision of a provider. Matthew Perry wasn't doing that.
Well, I learned when fentanyl first came on the market. You hear the stories about fentanyl and how that, one small particle of fentanyl can kill you, which I do believe. And obviously, we lose about 75,000 young Americans to fentanyl every year, which is more deaths in America than the complete death toll of the Vietnam War or the Korean War. And I think a lot of people are still messing around with stuff like that, which is, in my opinion, absolutely crazy. And yet I know that fentanyl is used in major American hospitals for surgeries. Because it is a drug that has a legal use, but once it gets on the black market, it becomes illegal. It also can become fatal. I hope I'm kind of making a comparison that more people can identify with.
Oh, no, you're definitely talking apples to apples, and that's the exact parallel here. Initially, when Matthew Perry died, I think the train of thought would be that if there was a criminal case here, it would be like the Michael Jackson case, where he had a doctor who prescribed him, I believe, propofol. And that led to his death. And actually, the doctor got convicted. So the question there is it more than is medically necessary? Now, the coroner's office rules out, and I don't know how they do this, and I obviously want to stay in my lane. But the coroner's office said that it couldn't have been that ketamine that killed him. I don't know how they determined that. If I'm defending the case, that's probably where I look. But they determined that it's somewhere else, and it's coming through the mail. They've got the U.S. Postal Service, and as part of the investigation here too.
Boy, I'll tell you, I'm somebody who believes that if you're selling stuff like fentanyl in the street and people are dying, You know, it's you. If you're dealing death, I'm somebody who's almost to the point where I'm going to say, let's have a special category in death penalty states, because
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe in use of death penalty in very, very limited circumstances when you have a conviction beyond a scintilla of doubt. That would be my standard for death penalty. Beyond, not beyond a reasonable, beyond a scintilla of doubt, with aggravating circumstances. You got, some of these cases that have just popped up in Houston, where this 12-year-old girl apparently was raped and murdered by these two guys. I think they're from Venezuela. I mean, if that's not aggravating circumstances, not to get you into another area, but at the same way with a fentanyl dealer, if you are in effect selling death, if you're selling black market, and I guess anything could result in, you can overdose from cocaine, you can die from heroin. I get that, but fentanyl, I think it's got a reputation, and if somebody was selling this guy stuff that took his life, they better lawyer up pretty quickly, Jeremy.
Well, well, I'll tell you this. So, I'm in Texas, where the Western Conference champion Dallas Mavericks are from. That's that's a sore topic there with Boston, but that's okay. Look, I would much rather lose to the Celtics knowing that we were clearly the second best team than watching Dwayne Wade beat us with 85 free throws a game, like they did in 2006.
We're not going to open up any old wounds now, Kimmy.
Not that I'm bitter about these things.
No, absolutely
but,
not. I don't sense that whatsoever.
Yeah, so Texas has actually made it a penalty. They've actually enacted new laws for fentanyl, which basically say if there there is a new manslaughter homicide charge that's related to fentanyl, and I'll go one step further with you. Okay, when you talk to jurors, when you talk to folks who are just for normal criminal trials and drug related trials, what you find is that overwhelmingly people want treatment. People don't want criminalization of drugs. People are really relaxing on those types of things, and they see drug charges for what they ought to be, which is nonviolent and to get the people help. However, when you say the F word, and that F word is fentanyl, all bets are off. Your jurors are still there with you, and the jurors are their thoughts and their attitudes are exactly like yours, that this stuff is lethal. And I've even seen cases where drug dealers are testing their drugs to make sure it's not fentanyl, because they know that the penalties are so much worse. So even the drug dealers are doing that.
Texas should lead the way in that. I'm a lawyer in the bluest of blue states, Massachusetts. You're in Texas. We can have a meeting of the minds on this. Jeremy, I really appreciate you moving your time up. Thank you very much. That bailed us out, and we'll have you back. I always enjoy talking to fellow members of the bar from whichever state they arrive. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Sounds good. Sounds good. At least we got the world champion Rangers here too. So
you've done very well. Yeah, I mean, I thought the North Stars had a shot as well. And the Cowboys kind of had a bad couple of decades here, but they'll turn it around at some point. I'm sure.
Sure.
I'm not going to compare the Patriots to the Cowboys. Okay.
How much time do I have? You want me to? Okay. Yeah. No, we're good. But right. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
On the Rangers is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
You got a couple of guys down there. That pitcher that you picked up from the Red Sox who helped you a lot. That was a good team. We're an American League city, so we root for American League teams for the most part. Thanks, Jeremy. Talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right.